Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 24. That means we are starting out on the sixth month, down a total of 34.4 pounds, and that means zero point 0.7 for this week. I'm pondering if it's just a hiccup or, like I said, I think it is the salty food because my weight again was up and down radically. And you don't lose weight radically, you lose water weight up and down radically, but I think it's going to come off, and I think I'm going to hit my wonderland by the end of the year. I'm hoping that's going to be the case. But a good week. I got back to my regular mainstay diet, and everything's been going very well. What the reason I think that it is salt that I'm having the issue with is because my friend and I went out to lunch, and I had a smaller meal, and it was a reasonable meal. When I added up the calories were in line. But boy, was it salty, and I should have stopped. I should have stopped eating because it was just so salty. And one thing I noticed that on Mounjaro, I now taste salt and sugar a lot more than I did. And I think that's because I've reduced my salt and sugar so much that I taste it better now. And so I'm hoping that's a good sign for the future, because if I can get away from eating so much salt, eating so much sugar, those are all good things. And if I'm getting more tuned in because of this drug, that's great. And I'm very excited about it. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I'm a troubleshooter at heart. I tackle things. I try to troubleshoot whatever is going on. And one of the things that I noticed is, first of all, I get really quite low energy after the shot. I was pretty sick today. I was working today, and somewhere about a half hour after I took the shot, I just felt awful. I kind of try to walk it off a little bit and try to eat some things to stabilize my stomach a bit. This is probably the worst side effects I've had yet today. The other interesting thing is I started doing a lot more vitamins. My doctor did a number of blood tests for me. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Vitamin D down, but that's because I'm a pasty nerd in the upper Midwest, and we are going to have bad vitamin D. So I started taking vitamin D. I noticed that I don't get vitamin K. I started doing better multivitamins. But here's the other interesting thing, and I am not a doctor, so talk to your doctor about doing anything. Vitamins are not regulated, and they can affect medication you're taking, other things, so you should do this in line with your doctor. But I was getting practically no magnesium. And I noticed, and a friend of mine said that magnesium is highly involved in sleep. I've been a bad sleeper. This weight is I used to have significant breathing problems every night. It would list me as about an hour of problems. My breathing difficulty was rated as bad, and that's why I was worried about the sleep apnea. Since losing this amount of weight, it has just this last couple of weeks gone to sleep difficulty, has gone to breathing difficulty, to being absolutely nothing. I have absolutely 0 minutes of breathing difficulty, and I think it's all from losing weight around my throat, which they say is what causes sleep apnea. This is great news. My whole life, I had insomnia probably up to a decade ago. Then over the years, I started taking melatonin, which I believe worked for me because I have a circadian clock problem, which means that when I went to Hawaii for work, that schedule was great for me. I actually slept fantastically in Hawaii because whatever it is, my body is set to that kind of time. If left to my own devices, I would probably stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and then sleep till whenever I could during the day. And you just can't afford to do that when you're in the Midwest because you have to work and do other things. Although having a job in California, I'm much better than I used to be. But melatonin helps with circadian clock issues. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that my dad worked, I think, swing shift. He would come back somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. My parents would get into a huge fight. I would stay awake as a little kid to make sure everything settled out okay. And then as soon as everything calmed down, the fighting stopped, I would go to sleep. And I think I did it for so many years, it just stuck in me. So melatonin helped quite a bit to get me into good sleep measures. I have a Withings sleep monitor, and it measures stuff like breathing and restlessness and that kind of thing. And I used to score, they give you a score, 40. I was terrible at sleeping, and I barely got any deep rest at all. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And then I started taking melatonin, it got a little bit better. One thing I did notice is that as my diabetes, blood sugar, was getting worse and worse, I started getting exhausted. And I was not necessarily falling asleep, but almost passing out. I was exhausted. And I started thinking this is a health problem. That's also what spurred me going back to the doctor because I knew something was really wrong. And I wasn't getting great sleep. The other thing that was really interesting is Withing measures your breathing because I always worried that I would potentially have some sort of an apnea and I wouldn't know it. And this measures that. And it was pretty high. I had high disturbance of sleep, particularly when I had cats and pets. And now that I don't, my sleeping got better and my breathing got better, but it still wasn't great. Last couple weeks, I started taking magnesium, and the magnesium is supposed to aid in sleep. And like I said, I noticed in my diet, I wasn't getting any of it. And I have been sleeping like a log. I have been getting 3.5 hours of deep sleep. I mean, compared to 40 minutes, amazing. I've been waking up and feeling great. And now I'm starting to wonder too, was I always just never getting enough magnesium in my diet? Now, the interesting thing is, and again, I am not a doctor, so you should talk to your own doctor, is there different kinds of magnesium? And I just ordered one random one right off the internet. Turned out it was magnesium citrate. And that one acts as a bit of a laxative, which is funny because Mounjaro, Ozempic, all those style drugs can make you a little bit constipated. And when I went up in dose, I sort of expected that to happen because that's what I read primarily is a lot of people had problems with. And I didn't. And I thought, I wonder why I don't have that problem. And now I'm like, oh, it's because I'm taking the magnesium, which is probably countering the effects of Mounjaro. And so I'm pretty darn normal at that point. But the sleeping has been great. And sleeping is important when it comes to weight loss because, as many of you know, if you're overweight, when you're tired, you wake up in the morning and you're exhausted, you don't feel like you're rested, and now you're just struggling to get through your whole day of work. When you're not rested, what will happen is you'll start eating, I think biologically triggered because your body says, you got to energize, you got to step up your energy. You start drinking a ton of caffeine, you start eating high energy, sugar, white bread kinds of food so that you just can make it through the end of the day. When you get good sleep, it nearly fixes everything. Suddenly now you can stay energized throughout the day without snacking. So it helps you lose weight as well. So figuring out and tackling your sleep problems, that is going to be, I just think the best thing that you can do, because if you're, like I said, not getting good sleep, you don't feel like exercising, you don't feel like getting out and going for a walk, you start eating worse foods more often, and then your weight turns in a bad direction. So figuring out what it is. And now I went about this through sleep monitoring by trying to troubleshoot, because I'm a troubleshooter, what was going wrong. So I started using regular Apple Watch sleep tracking. And I started noticing just different things. First of all, I was having trouble falling asleep. Well, I'm a nerd. I got all this stuff. I got all these monitors. I got all these bright lights. So I started working on getting my house to dim itself, because I have few light bulbs, almost like a sunset at around 9 o'clock so that the lights would come down. My monitors would start to get more yellowy and not emit so much blue light. I got blue filtering glasses and starting to wind down my activity and the amount of light that is in my room. So there's certain amounts of light that just turn off the closer I get to going to bed. So that was step one. Step two was I noticed that stuff was bugging me, things that were making noise. So I got rid of all the things that were making noise. The third step is I noticed that something was waking me up every night at 3 a.m. And what was it? Finally, I set an alarm almost like 5 minutes to 3 o'clock. And then I got up and tried to figure out what it was. And it was my water softener. It is noisy and it kicks off at 3 a.m. I switched the time to be at a time when I'm awake. Suddenly, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. again. So troubleshooting everything was step by step. What is waking me up here? What is preventing me from going to sleep there? The melatonin was part of a 23andMe, believe it or not, DNA. If I looked at my DNA, it said I probably don't make serotonin. which is which I suspect is something, obviously, that runs in my family. And so if I don't make serotonin, then that means I don't make melatonin, because serotonin turns to melatonin at the right time when you're supposed to sleep. So I tried an experiment. So for a long time, I took melatonin. This magnesium has been helpful too. And I've never been a vitamin person before, but now, because I don't eat enough, because I see, because I'm tracking my food in my net diary, how much nutrition I am missing all the time. And so now I can say, oh, well, yeah, I don't get enough vitamin D, I don't get enough potassium, I don't get enough magnesium, and start tackling those a little bit better. I hope that whenever it is I'm done with this weight loss process, I will work on eating the nutrition as compared to taking vitamins for it. But right now, all I got is the vitamins, and that's troubleshooting those particular issues. But like I said, try to tackle whatever problems you're having in those particular cases. Like for me, it was the vitamin issue and the sleep issue. And by tackling both of those, it's been great. And now I am getting 95 out of 100 on my sleep score, which is amazing to me because, like I said, a few years ago, 40 and 40 minutes of deep sleep. So try to tackle whatever issues are keeping you down. And sleep is just one of the best things that you can try to tackle. There are sleep clinics out there that your doctor can put you through to try to figure out what's going on and try to help you with what's going on. Like I said, I'm kind of a life experimenter and a troubleshooter, so I did it on my own. But certainly try to figure out what's going on with you. And the next step is I was going to talk about what is going on with my hair. So I always had good hair. It was kind of funny because you're an overweight kid, the boys don't like you, all the different things. One thing I always had like decent track record with was my hair. It was soft, it was fluffy, it always behaved. All I had to do was run a brush through it and it did everything automatically nice. Since going on this, I have had trouble with my hair. And one is that I felt like it was partially falling out, but I mean, not a lot, but just enough where I would see hair like in my brush when I didn't used to. Oh boy. Next, it got a little wiry. Instead of being nice and soft, it sort of had a rougher, it's not rough, but it just was a little bit more prickly than it usually was. And it became unruly. It used to just fall into line whenever I did anything with my hair, and now it just isn't. So another type of vitamin that I started tackling was taking collagen, biotin, making sure you get enough protein. Protein is a big part of what produces hair, skin, nails, those kinds of things. So I wanted to tackle that, and it started getting a little bit better. But my hair, unruly, and it's great when you're starting a YouTube channel and you just can't do anything with your hair. Yesterday, I got a haircut, and I asked my haircut person about this, and she says, well, one, you're not going bald. And I'm like, oh, that's good. Two, it could be age too. So don't necessarily think it's the drug or the weight loss. But she says, I've had many people rapidly lose weight before and their hair gets weird. But the good news is that whatever's going on with your hair, when you go back to just eating a full diet and you're not on this drug and you're not trying to lose weight, your hair will come back too. So that's good news as well. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. People do mention having troubles with their hair while doing this. The funny thing of it is that we have never as a nation or as a world lost this much weight. I think this is the first time in government statistics where the average weight of people came down. And people are starting to notice weird things that they associate with Mounjaro or Ozempic or any of the drugs, but it turns out it is just about rapid weight loss. So if your hair is weird, if your skin is not as resilient, someone was bringing up that Mounjaro and Ozempic makes you feel bitterly cold, that you can't get warm. And I thought, you've never lost weight before, right? When you're overweight and you're carrying so much padding on you, it's insulation, right? And it keeps you much warmer than you thought. Now, for me, I thought, I'm good with winter weather because I'm Jill from the North Woods. I'm from way up there, and it was much, much colder up there than it is down here. So I'm fine with it. And now as I'm starting to lose weight, I'm realizing, oh, it was never me being Jill from the North Woods that prevented me from getting cold. It was from being overweight. So we're starting to notice all these things that change about people when they lose weight. And they'll blame it on these medications when in fact it has really just to do with the fact that as a nation and as a world, we're losing weight, and people have never done it in such a huge swath of people before. They're striking it up as side effects of a drug when it's actually just side effects of losing weight. So I thought that was very interesting. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. Please remember that you can subscribe and tell a friend. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Jill from the Northwoods. I have 4 podcasts. You can find them at abetterlifeinsmallsteps.com. And this is something I did to try to test out video. I've never done YouTube videos. I've never done video before. It's hard for me because I've always been self-conscious about my looks, and it's hard to do this when podcasting, you're just hiding behind a microphone. So please let me know if you have anything that you would like me to talk about, or you have any of your own experiences with either the GLP, losing weight, or anything like that. Please listen to my other podcast. And again, you can send me an email at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com, or you can leave a message right here. Thanks so much and have a great week.